Good morning, everyone. Oh, this is on. I'm just going to start off with a little memory lane slide. A bunch of my Cal Poly, Collins College memories. I was a transfer student coming in and also an international student. So for me, it was very important to get a lot of connections while I'm here because I only had 2 years to make it happen. So I made sure to join a lot of different clubs. I was part of the student event management. Okay. And then I was part of the board of CMAA. So I made sure to join as many excursions and as many clubs as I could. I also started working at a country club pretty much as soon as I started going to school here. So you see a couple pictures of internships, visiting other clubs, visiting some hotels, some ambassador pictures down here, some graduation pictures, and just lots of really fun experience like hospitality on court at the bottom right, and then our very own Lester DeWald right there. So lots of great and fun memories that I wanted to share to start off with. I want to now turn over to a little bit of my journey after Collins College. So I was originally slated to start my voyage program with Marriott at the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay. And then I attended the career fair, my very last career fair here. And I pretty much got stolen away by Dream Hotel Group. They asked me to be part of their West Coast debut. They opened up a huge complex in the heart of Hollywood. So I was part of the pre-opening team for that hotel that also had 2 nightclubs, 5 different food and beverage outlets, so a huge project. So I was part of it from the very beginning. We were wearing hard hats, the fun little orange vests, and I saw it come to fruition from literally no windows to then a full-on operating property. I started off at the front desk with them. I did that for about 3 months and then quickly moved into a sales role where I initially worked as a sales coordinator and then moved up into a conference services manager position since I had some events experience from interning at the country club while I was at school here. So take all internship opportunities while you can while you're still here. I know there's some great connections at the Collins College offers for all the students. After spending about 2.5 years at Dream Hotel in Hollywood, I decided to go back to school and get my MBA at Pepperdine, where I focused on luxury brand management. I also decided to take a little time off from hospitality and started working at Louis Vuitton for about 6 months before I went and studied abroad in Paris as part of the Pepperdine program at Essex Business School in the heart of Paris. While I was out there, I took a couple classes in hotel development. While I was out there, I had the chance to work at the Plaza Athénée. They have a huge program for families staying there with kids, so we helped them develop a new children's program while I was studying abroad. And then moving on to after the pandemic, where most of us had to take a little break in hospitality, but we're back and flourishing. So right after the pandemic, I joined the Godfrey Hotel in Hollywood. Again, I did a pre-opening for them, and then I worked in a sales and events capacity for them. So I was in charge of all events on campus, including the large rooftop bar they had up there, as well as our very own restaurant and any meeting spaces on property. And about a year in, you will realize that everybody knows everyone in this industry, especially in hotels. It's so vast, but also so small. So after giving a site tour to the director of sales from Thompson and Tommy Hotel in Hollywood while I was still at Godfrey, she invited me over to come site their hotel and just kind of see what they're doing over there. At the end of the site tour, she offered me a job. So I moved over to Thompson and Tommy, which is about a block away from this property. So Hollywood has truly been, yeah, right in the concept. Hollywood has truly been my home for the past 7 years for hotel openings, as well as doing events and sales in different properties. Thompson and Tommy is a campus in Hollywood, so it's 2 hotels, 8 food and beverage outlets. All of them are lifestyle properties, which is my forte, what I know now and what I've done for the past couple years. So lots of nightlife involved, lots of different great food and beverage options that also allow for fantastic events to be held. But most recently, earlier this year, I got a call from a recruiter and I decided to go beachside. And I now work in Huntington Beach and sell Paséa Hotel and Spa. Right at the beach, you just cross the street and your toes are in the sand. So my very first beach resort, it's quite different from working in the middle of Hollywood with lots of nightlife activity, but a nice and welcome switch up. A couple things I've learned along the way are that it's important to be very curious. Don't be afraid to share your passions and things that you're interested in because you never know who's listening. And I think if you put out there what your true desires are, what you're interested in, there's always a listening ear somewhere trying to help you out, or at least maybe knowing someone who could help you out and get you to where you truly want to be. That's how I moved up fairly quickly, have done a lot of openings. I think be intentional with the choices you make is also very important. When I worked at the front desk at Dream, I always mentioned that I wanted to be in events or I wanted to be in sales and I wanted to explore these avenues despite the fact that I didn't know much about these departments. I think just putting yourself out there, telling people that you want to grow is very important because if no one knows what you want to do, no one can help you. Another thing that I realize is extremely important is being authentic. Being your true self is the only you should be. There's only one of you. If you try to be like other people or imitate other people, it's just not authentic to yourself and people can tell. And as long as you are being truly yourself, people embrace that. I think people admire people who are just very upfront and just the way they are. And then that way your passions are also shine through perfectly, because if you're truly telling people what you want, where you want to go, why you want to go there, people see the passion in your eyes and they are always readily happy to help and support you. And then I think I'm a champion of taking calculated risks. As you can see, in the past 70 years, I've worked at a lot of different properties, but I am a firm believer in taking any opportunity that knocks on your door that propels you to the next level of your career. Even if you think it's maybe something that is not a traditional path to go, I think it's still worth exploring it. I put calculated risks. I don't want anyone to do anything crazy, but I think it's important to be open to explore, open to different avenues that maybe not everyone is taking. And I think for me so far, it's really paid off. And it's had me explore a lot of different avenues and also build. I talk a lot about personal branding, so I think if you truly embrace what you want to do, if you take calculated risks, and then bundle that up while being your authentic self, I think you build a brand for yourself, which is very important. As soon as you start joining companies, there's corporate politics and things you don't necessarily learn in the classroom. So I think it's very important to know exactly what you want. And if you're not sure what you want, to just ask and explore. A lot of people love talking about themselves. And if you're just there to knock on their door and ask a couple questions, I think people are very willing to share and help out. So once you kind of pick and choose what inspires you from other people and then mix that with what you truly want for yourself, I think you get to that point where you build your own brand identity, and then that's easier to sell in person, in combination, of course, with your resume. But I think being truly yourself, pushing that forward, and not being afraid of being yourself is truly what propelled me to where I am right now.
My turn. Hi, everybody. My name is Manny Hernandez. I am a graduate of 2017 from the Collins College of Hospitality Management. I currently work as the Senior Sales Executive for the JW Marriott Anaheim Resort. It's a luxury hotel in the city of Anaheim, the only luxury hotel outside of the Grand California in Anaheim, and currently the only JW in Orange County. Pretty much my entire hospitality career has been with Marriott. I'll show you a couple of pictures in just a second as far as my path. But I wanted to answer this question first just because this is currently the big Marriott campaign. It's begin, belong, become, and we truly want everybody to be themselves and be a part of the company as the company continues to grow. And how has Marriott helped me to be the best version of me? I think Gaelle touched on it briefly, and it was being authentic and genuine. I can be myself in this company, and I've always been genuine. I've always been the person that talks too much, and being in sales, that has helped me. It has allowed me to shine. Thank you, Professor. But I found my strengths. I found what really works for me personally, and I found a path to kind of grow and capitalize on it. So a couple of pictures from my time with the Collins College. I started actually at Cal Poly as an architecture student. I did 2 quarters of architecture. I hated it, and I apologized to my parents because they truly wanted me to be an architect. But when I made the switch to hospitality, I never looked back. I feel like I was always able to really thrive in hospitality. And it sounds cliche, but it's the affinity of being able to help people. And I truly have been able to kind of capture that. From the very beginning, I was very involved in the Collins College. I was a part of CMAA with Gaelle here. And I did internships at country clubs, private clubs. I did PMI. Yep, with Margie. I've done NSMH, and I did HMC. I was the HMC president. I did the ambassador program. So kind of like a culmination of the big highlights of Collins College are on this slide. I also worked at Kellogg West, the hotel here. My very first career expo or recruitment here at the Collins College, I remember being a student, being super happy, and immediately being overwhelmed. I turned around and I was so disappointed in myself because I just did not have the guts to talk to anybody. And a friend of mine who was also a Collins College student came up to me because he saw me down, and he just tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "Hey, it's overwhelming, but it's okay. Everybody here is just as nervous as you are." And he grabbed me by the hand. He walked me to the Morongo table, and he introduced me to somebody. He said, "I don't care what you talk about. You're going to talk to them for 3 minutes." And I spoke to them, and they offered me an internship. So had it not been for my friends and the students, my fellow students, to kind of lean into one another, I wouldn't have been able to take that first step. And I'm always so extremely grateful for that friend that I want to always pay it forward, because we kind of lean with one another, you know? Some of my closest friends are still in the industry, and we're always communicating with one another, seeing where they are in their path, what trends we can kind of learn from one another. Gaelle and I have run into each other at conferences, so it's always really good to kind of keep the connections, not just for your own personal gain, but to see how you can help others. From Morongo, I did my first Marriott internship at the Residence Inn Fairfield Inn in Tustin. I remember going to Janet Batchel, who was the recruiter at the time for Marriott, and saying, "Hey, Janet, I want sales." And she said, "That's awesome. You're going to get housekeeping." And I was so devastated. But in retrospect, I learned so much from the operational standpoint that by the next go-around, she gave me a sales internship. And I was one of 7 students in the country to get the luxury of being able to work in sales. Everything beyond that has always been in sales for Marriott. So I did the sales office, which was regional sales. I've done destination sales executive, which I'll touch on in just a second, and my current role as a senior sales executive. Good? Fabulous. Awesome. Now, I'm here to talk about sales because I know that's kind of what everybody wants to learn about. And there's so many different layers of sales, especially in Marriott, which is so structured and corporate. There's so many different facets, right? I kind of want to just briefly break it down so that we understand what it means to be in sales, and based off of your own personality, what you find more attractive as a potential sales path, okay? In Marriott, we have proactive and reactive sales. Proactive sales are the people that go and hunt for accounts. They are the people that are kind of knocking door to door. They're really learning the customer, learning their needs, and just trying to get them into the door of a hotel. So in that, we have a sales executive, which is very single hotel represented, going door to door. And then we have account executives, senior account executives, and global account executives. Those 3 positions are tied to specific accounts. So let's say Google wants to have a meeting. There are account executives tied to Google, just the one account. It doesn't matter what hotel they book, so long as Google as a company is growing their meeting footprint, okay? So proactive, if you see yourself as the kind of person that goes and talks to people, that's your line of business in sales. Then there's reactive sales. Reactive sales are the people that catch the client and close it, okay? We have multi-hotel sales, which is almost like a regional facet. They are remote salespeople that represent a cluster of hotels, and they get the clients calling them. So they don't have to do the work of going out and hunting. People go to them, and now it's their job to negotiate and close, okay? Destination sales executives, they work at a single property. They are considered the closers of the hotel. So they will get a client from multi-hotel sales. They'll wine and dine them at the hotel, and they'll help close that line of business. Catering sales executive is also very similar, but it's in the name. It's social in nature. So they are the ones that do weddings. They are the ones that do baby showers. Anything that makes you laugh, cry, that's what they're kind of booking. That's their line of business. And then you find people like myself, the senior sales executive. I am one hotel based, but I just take the larger pieces of the program. So I'm working with groups that are 100 rooms and above, and just a little bit more impactful to the general market and area of the business. And then we know that Marriott has so many brands, so many sides that you can really explore. You have luxury, premium, select, mid-scale. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because not everybody's suited for one specific brand, or not everybody's suited for every single brand, right? Really hone into where you feel comfortable, because there will be a path of growth through the company with so many different options for you to explore. The beautiful thing is you can be an indoor designer or decorator. You could be an events manager. You could go work for corporate and still be in the same company, right? There's a reason why the company has people that work for 25 years and above. It's because you can explore so many different sides of an industry and still say, oh, I work for Marriott. And then I'll close on my hotel. We have two major ballrooms. The one that we see pictured here is Arbor Ballroom. That's roughly 13,000 square feet. Those are just numbers, but it's a big space that I can host big groups in. I have a beautiful garden, a patio. For those of you that have not been, it's a beautiful space that people can really hone in with one another, reconnect, especially in the heart of Anaheim. That's not a space that's readily available, so it's something that we really, truly value. And yeah, just the rest of the aesthetics of the property. Thank you.
Okay, who has a question? I'm going to try every time just to see if somebody's on the edge of their seat.
And I have a question regarding like your leadership style. Which leadership style do you think you have leaned into the most with your experience as being like senior executives? And what do you think makes a good leader?
This might be the time to tell you that Gaelle's honors project was Women in Leadership in Hospitality.
I personally appreciate a leader who's not a helicopter, who just lets me work independently and answers my questions if I have any. And I think that's how I like to lead as well. I think I particularly like working closely with my assistants or coordinators, because I just like the young blood coming in, like having bright eyes and bushy tails, just wanting to learn. And I think I like to take on more of a mentor approach to leadership if someone is interested. Otherwise, I let people roam free. Ask open door policy. If someone has a question, please come in, ask questions. I'm always happy to help, but I like people to explore on their own, unless it's someone who needs a lot of hand holding, and then I need it expressed so I can assist when needed. But I think I take the approach that I personally prefer as well.
I agree. I think my approach is a rising tide lifts all ships, right? There's no reason why I should hold on to information that benefits exclusively me when my colleagues, coworkers, or coordinators are also needing the same information. So always having the mindset of helping people, mentoring people, I think that's a path to choose. Great question.
Can I ask you a follow-up? Is your leadership style different in sales, Gaelle, than it was in events or other things?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good question.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think in events, I was a lot more hands-on because the teams I had to manage were much larger. Right now, I only manage 2 people that are directly reporting to me. In events, I probably had like 45 reporting to me, so that's a little different. It needs a lot more structure. I think specifically in Hollywood also with banquet servers, you get a lot of actors and people who don't do that as like their main career goal. So I think there's a lot of keeping the sheep in line, reminding people why they're here. So lots more hand holding, I think a lot more assertive leadership style to just keep everybody in check, just because the dynamics are so different.
Okay. What is the leadership and what is the pathway to the catering sales
Pathway to catering sales.
in America?
So the social one.
Right.
Great question. I don't know. I think after COVID, the pathways have gone like this, you know? Before I could tell you straight and say, do multi-hotel sales, then do a sales executive, and then you can choose into social or senior sales executive. Now I'm seeing my colleagues jump all over the place. So there's not a true right or wrong path. If you find that social catering is your pathway, I would definitely tell you to explore that. Best way is I've seen some of your colleagues reach out to me via LinkedIn and ask to connect. Google it or link it, senior catering sales executive, and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm dying to learn about your pathway. And they are more than happy to kind of teach you that. If you wanted to specifically get into a hotel that you're dying to explore, I would say sales coordinator, group housing coordinator, or a rooms controller are kind of like the base areas to start your path in sales, and then go from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is, where does the majority of the sales at your hotels come from, and how do you control that demographic?
I think it truly, truly depends on where you're located in a city and also what your hotel style is. My current property is a beach resort, so we do book a lot of leisure business, especially over the weekends and during the summer months. So we get a lot of families and maybe weekend getaways, local travel for staycations. I think it's very seasonal business, so that's mostly in the summer months, or if people are coming in for like weddings and all the fun laugh and tear-jerking events. So I think other months are very corporate heavy, where we get maybe big finance conferences coming in, maybe food and beverage companies coming in for leadership meetings. So it truly depends, for my property, truly depends on the season. And then since we're a beach resort, it's also, I think, a good property for incentive travel. So let's say Ford is hosting an incentive trip for all their top sellers of the entire company. So maybe they have a group of 200-300 people coming in for maybe an entire week, and they want to have a beach resort because it's more of a relaxed setting, and they want to go play golf, they want to go whale watching, they want to do like all these activities as a reward for the people who work so well over the year. So it just, I think, truly depends on your location and what your property offers activity-wise.
I agree. It's all based off your market. Anaheim, of course, is known for the theme parks. So the theme parks kind of command the occupancy for the hotel. But we're also a very big convention market. So when we have large conventions, we're also getting compressed. And we're a big sports city too. So we have hockey and baseball that kind of also address that. So my hotel specifically is fortunate enough to kind of have 3 different styles of anchors to balance out occupancy. and then I come in and layer in a group so that I can then, maximize occupancy and ADR. Yeah, does that answer the question? You're welcome.
So Bella Terrace was here from Angel Stadium in our opening day, and she is a culinary coordinator, but how do you work with Angel Stadium? Explain that kind of ecosystem.
Absolutely, both with Angel Stadium and the Honda Center where the Ducks play. My hotel always seeks out the teams that are away, so that when they're in-house or when they're playing the Angels or the Ducks, they think of my hotel first to stay at, right? Now, I'm always marketing the hotel as the closest, most accessible to Angel Stadium and the Honda Center, but a lot of teams prefer to stay by the beach when they're in town. I've lost some teams over to Paséa, so not happy about that. But yeah, so it's just, again, when teams are away, you're bringing them into the hotel so that they can stay.
Gaelle, what's the Hollywood magnet?
For my 7 years in Hollywood, my bread and butter was fashion, beauty, gaming, and obviously entertainment. So Netflix, Hulu, all the big Warner Brothers, anything you can think of, movie or music related, was absolutely our bread and butter. Yeah, and that's from like bands to crew, filming, lots of commercials, lots of product launches for big beauty brands. If big brands are coming in for Fashion Week, we would have the models at Tommy and then all the big executives at Thompson. So a great split, since Tommy it's 4-star, but a little more laid back, and then Thompson is more an exclusive luxury experience. So we had a great opportunity to split up groups into staff blocks as well as executive blocks.
I have a question about the big topic, knowing that hospitality is very overwhelming. We're always trying to please people, and it can become very heavy on our health, mental health, and that, doing we're not supposed to. What assistance have grown to companies like Marriott and yours offer?
That's a great question. Marriott does have mental health opportunities that's available, kind of like through your medical or wellness pathway. I can only speak for my team specifically at my hotel, because I know it's not the same everywhere, but my team's very sensitive towards that. And I know that I have the luxury of being able to say, hey, I'm not feeling myself today. I need a day off, or I need some hours off. And my team is extremely receptive towards that. So it's always finding the leader or the hotel that is built off of those pillars that allows you to kind of take that time off without you feeling guilty about stepping away.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think very similar for the properties I worked for. Thompson and Tommy are part of Hyatt, so another big conglomerate, so very similar to what you just said. And they also offer subscriptions to apps like Headspace, so you can meditate and kind of like take a step back and relax after work. They also supported a lot of memberships to different gyms, and just to create that work-life balance and support that. My current property is independent, and most of my properties I worked at were independent. So the approach is a little different, since it's not a big scale operation like Hyatt or Marriott. I think there's a little more flexibility on how they want to handle the mental health aspect or just work-life balance in general. I think Paséa, the property that I'm at right now, does a fantastic job at balancing it out. Every Tuesday morning, I think at 10, they take beach walks. So they make sure that everybody gets out. We have a challenge every month. This month is a drink water challenge. So they just hand out all these little challenge booklets every month for everybody to get super involved, and just also push people to speak up and say, hey, this is what I need. I need some balance. What can you offer to help me out with that? So I think it's very important for the property that I'm at currently.
Hi. So as leaders, how would you distinguish thinking of other people individually rather than as a whole or a group?
I could take it. I can take it. I can take it in my perspective. My sales team, we're all considered individual contributors, right? What that means is we all have our individual goal that we are all individually responsible to achieve. And if I don't hit my goal, that's on me. It's on nobody else but me, right? Everybody's individual goal, though, is then summed up and is taken into the total hotel goal. That that measurable or deliverable doesn't take place until the very end of the year. So even though throughout the whole calendar year, I'm thinking of myself as an individual contributor, at the end of the year, if I didn't do what I had to do and X person didn't do what they had to do, it now affects our total hotel production, right? So it goes back to what I was saying about the rising tide lifts all ships. It does not matter if I am hitting 150% of my goal, if my colleague is at 20%. At the end of the year, it's going to affect me again. So we all lean into one another and we all help one another to ensure that we're on pace together.
I think my current environment is slightly different. It's very much a team approach for everything. So despite the fact that we all have individual goals, I always like to use the puzzle analogy. So we're all a piece of the puzzle and we all make it work together, like you mentioned. But I think my current property very much pushes the team effort for everything. So let's say someone is a little or knows that they're going to be short for their quarterly goal or whatever it may be. It's a huge team effort, including the general manager, all the other department heads, to see what can we do to get you where you need to be. And I think they're very proactive in that approach. And I think it built a little more synergy within the team. We're a fairly large sales team for a property of only 250 rooms. So I think they do a beautiful job at creating that synergy and making sure that we're not too narrow-minded in our approach and in our approach of achieving our goals.
Next.
Hi, I'm Gabby. Both of you being leaders, who do you look up to when you make a mistake, and how do you cope with making any kind of mistake in your field?
Have you ever made one?
All the time. All the time.
You said it twice. That means something.
Who do I look up to? I don't know if I have. Do you look up to somebody when you make a mistake?
I think I'm very much a fix it myself before anybody else notices. But if I truly need help, I think I usually go maybe to a counterpart first to see if we've really covered all the bases and thought of all the things. And then if we as a collective can't find a solution, that's where I go to more senior leadership. I think my thought process in doing it that way is I had a boss who always said, use your brain, not mine. So I think that stuck with me. And if I haven't explored every opportunity to fix it myself, I never want to ask a higher up who has an even busier schedule than I do and ask something. And then the answer is so simple that I should have thought of it myself or someone else could have helped me easily. So I think rectifying what I messed up on my own terms, trying to kind of like dig deeper. And I think you learn more that way too, because you're truly exploring all the avenues. And then when you truly can't figure it out, I think there's always an open door policy. And obviously, if it's something tragic, you want to escalate it as quickly as possible to not make it worse. But if it's something that maybe you have a couple hours to figure it out, I would just brainstorm with other people first.
I don't know. I think, and the reason why I was joking saying I make a lot of mistakes is because in my philosophy, you only grow by making mistakes. If you are perfect, you're not really pushing yourself or learning stuff that's out of the usual, right? So I make a ton of mistakes all the time, but I value the mistakes more than my normal achievements because I'm learning from something, you know? Yeah. You're welcome.
Calculated risk? Risk.
Calculate.
Anybody? Okay. I hogged last time. I'm trying to make sure you get to questions.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I just want to say thank you for coming and presenting all of us.
We really appreciate it.
But my question is, as Collins alum, what advice would you give to us students? Maybe like one particular tip, maybe other outside of like, oh, you should try to network or go to the career fair. Maybe just something a little bit more niche that you found really helped you through your journey.
I think starting to go to industry events earlier on. I think there's a lot of opportunities here to do so, but also finding some on your own. There's a lot of associations that you can join, and usually the student fees are pretty low or even complimentary. I think trying to join these associations early on, because you will meet the people that do what you want to do in the future. I think it's more direct exposure than just doing your internships and like doing the networking. I think it's different networking because most of the people, 99% of the people you will meet there are professionals. And then you also see them act like professionals. So you see them in the wilds doing their thing. And I think that's the best way to observe and absorb as well. So maybe that's a little niche trick that I wish I would have explored earlier on.
For me, what worked was exposing myself to as much as possible. Even if you don't think it's something you would see yourself in, go test it and try it out. Gaelle and I, we met in CMA, right, the private club side of the industry. And I was heavily involved in that at the time. I was on their e-board and everything. And then I realized I don't like this at all. But it wasn't until exploring it that I came to that conclusion. I think you find what you truly thrive in by exploring all the stuff that you know you're not gonna work in, right? But you can't make those assumptions one way or another. So you really have to get your hands dirty and explore as much as possible. Yeah. Why? How? I don't remember. My what? My homies. Oh yes, my homies. That was in one of the pictures. I became best friends with my colleagues here at the Collins College, and they decided to be the president, the vice president, the everything. And they reached out to me saying, "Hey, we want you to be the treasurer." So I became a part of the group. They were all seniors when I was a junior, and they didn't tell me that they were all graduating at the time. So they all ditched me.
Yep. Sorry.
And she too ditched me. And then I was the last one. That's when I said, "This is not for me." And I went into hotels.
Yeah.
My name is Ben. Thank you for coming back. I wanted to know how is artificial intelligence being used and affecting your part of the business?
Oh, great question. How do you use it?
I'm trying to think. We've had workshops about it and more so projecting on how it could affect us in the near future. I don't use it on a daily basis, but I know our catering team uses it a lot to generate either proposals or anything that needs to go out to our clients. Our marketing team uses it heavily, especially on social media to promote the properties. But I would say me personally, or overall the sales team, we don't really use it that much yet.
Mm-hmm. I see it as a tool to help you work more efficiently. I don't see it as something that's going to replace me, but it's definitely a tool. I mean, I don't know if this was a placebo effect or what, but I'm trying to get this client, and I've emailed and called and emailed like for 3 weeks, and I have not gotten a response. So then I go into AI, and I go, help me draft an email that's going to require a response from the person on the other side. And I read it, and I go, this is ridiculous. But I sent it, and I got a response. So I don't know, you know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I wouldn't tell you to overly rely on it. It's a tool. It's not you. Just use it to your advantage.
Part tenacity, part AI.
Yes.
Okay, over here. Hi, I'm Michelle. I have a question for both of you. When you were here at Collins, what was your emphasis? Then also going into the industry, are you at where you wanted to be when you were in Collins, or has it changed over time?
My emphasis was events. I did the events route. I don't know if that's still an option. Okay. It was like the first round, I think, when I did the events route, but like Manny, I was heavily involved in private clubs, country clubs specifically, and for a long time thought this is the route I was going to go. Um, it was just a little too stuffy for my spiciness, so I decided to switch it up. And I think along the way, I always thought I wanted to do events, and it sounds very glamorous and it's fun. And while I was at Collins, I also worked for party staff. So I've worked the Oscars, I worked the Golden Globes, and everything is just so grand. And especially coming from Switzerland, everything was so wow in Hollywood. So I think I always had an urge to explore that avenue. But then when I switched over to hotels and I did a little of operations and then I moved into sales and I was kind of a sales events hybrid, I got exposed to a lot of that Hollywood glam. And it is tiring. I will be very honest. There's a lot going on, a lot of different puzzle pieces. There's no work life balance because you're always on. Especially the first property I worked at had 5 different food and beverage outlets. And it was part of Tao Group. If anyone likes to go to Vegas and loves the pool party, Tao pretty much founded the pool party. So they are very heavily involved with celebrities, athletes. So probably 4 days out of the 7 a week, we had to be on property and you just work the craziest hours. But then you also have to be in the office to do your admin work. So there's no work-life balance. It's very exciting and you learn a lot very quickly. But for me, it was not sustainable. With what I wanted to do, especially with going back to school and getting my master's, that was just not something I could juggle anymore. And then after the pandemic, when I opened Godfrey, I was a sales and events manager. So I did both there, but it was on a smaller scale. So that was a little more doable. But I just now truly enjoy sales because it's pretty much the only department you can be at in a hotel where you have a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday-ish. But it's very much more work-life balance. Fully remote, yes.
Love did I see myself here? I would say yes. I always wanted to be in sales, and I did what I had to do to get to sales. But in my path through sales, I've seen a lot of other things that I had no idea existed. I met a team member. The hotel, the JW, is a newish hotel. It opened up in 2020. So we've had the JW brand team. This is a team that works for corporate that goes around opening JWs or revitalizing a legacy JWs. It's the coolest thing ever. All you got to do is learn the brand, and then you're teaching other people about the brand. And there's teams for every single brand. Imagine being a part of the Ritz-Carlton team, right? I had no idea this was a side of Marriott, and I fell in love with it. So do I see myself there? I would say so. I also like the aspect of revenue management and being able to maximize revenue for a hotel. It's way more strategic and less relationship driven than sales. I see myself in that too. All that to say is I know I wanted sales. I am in sales. I'm very happy and satisfied of where I am, but there's so many more options to explore, and I find that exciting.
What's the relationship of sales and revenue? And what's the hardest part about being in sales? Rejection?
I think it's a balance. It's a 3-way balance. It's revenue, sales, and event management. And you can't succeed without one another. It's a yin and a yang type of situation. I love my revenue managers for the hotel, and I love my event managers for the hotel. I can't say that they love me, but I know that I love them. And I know that it has to be a team in order to work.
Yeah, I think traditionally what Margie was alluding to, sales and revenue is usually a head-to-head because you want to get the best deal for your client while also making your numbers. And then revenue just wants to push ADR, push. And you have built relationships with your clients for years. and you want to make sure that they trust that you will get the absolute best deal for them. So you have to fight for your client with your revenue leader. The revenue leader is focused on bringing in the money because they're getting pressure from even higher up. So there's this like tug of war, I guess. And then events, traditionally, not everywhere. I think things we're selling the dream, maybe over-promising at some properties, and then they have to pretty much make it happen. So that's where conflict can happen there. I've been very lucky to work for a lot of hotels where there wasn't that big of a divide. Revenue is always a little tricky, but you just learn to love them, and then they love you back because you bring in a lot of money. But events and sales can be sensitive as well.
Hello. What tools and apps would you say are the most helpful and useful?
Like accessible to the public or specifically work?
Like for sales.
You can talk about your work platform.
Okay.
Marriott has a new platform called, I'm blanking on the platform right now.
You can talk about what it is, what it does.
I think it's called like Sales Micro or something. I'm so upset that I'm blanking on the thing. I'm supposed to be the champion of the hotel, and here I am blanking on the term. Anyways, what it does, it takes aggregate data of all of the events taking place in a market, whether they're my hotel or sister properties, utilizing that data from the Star Report or Noland, which are different companies that kind of audit what's happening in a city. And you can audit and see, hey, this group is meeting at my competitor down the street. I've seen that they've met there 4 times and they have not met at my hotel. Why have they not met at my hotel? So then you can kind of target an account and do something called share shifting, which is where you're shifting the share of a business into your hotel. So Marriott has data, overwhelmingly a plethora of data that you can kind of lean into and utilize. And sometimes it makes your job easier if you know how to use it. Sometimes it makes your job overwhelming if you kind of get lost in the data of it all.
I think to add on to that, I think every property has a sales system that they use. Marriott obviously has a Marriott specific one. Hyatt has Envision, which is their own specific one that they use. It's a CRM where you manage all your customer databases, and you pretty much, to get to the nitty gritty, when you get a request from a company for a meeting, or even if someone requests a space for a wedding, you usually put it in that CRM system where you log what the person's name is, all their contact information, and then you also put in what dates they would like to come in, and you just save the entire profile for that event. So you're going to put in what spaces they will need, how many rooms they will need, and then the rate you quoted them. So you have everything in the system. So your entire team, including the people who are supporting you, have access to see what you quoted, and your leadership team also sees what's going on. So usually once a week, some properties do it several times a week. All the sellers sit together with their directors or managers, and then we look at the GRC, which is pretty much a calendar. And in the calendar, maybe you cover a quarter, sometimes you cover the entire year, sometimes just 6 months. You just go through all the bookings that are currently in prospect, then the bookings that already requested a contract, and that's different from property to property. But for my property, if someone requested a contract, you put it in as a tentative because you know this will most likely move forward. And then once the group actually signs the contract, that means it's now definite. And then you have the different tiers of what status the groups are in. You can see exactly how many groups you're going to have for next March, April, May. And then you can also see what space do I still have available to sell? How many rooms do we have available to sell? And that's where sales, revenue, events, and then ultimately the operations team all work together and kind of have an overview of what's actually going on property.
Before you ask your question, CRM, STAR, GSC, you got an acronym defined.
Acronym.
Yes, yes. So the CRM is
Pop quiz.
Pop quiz. It's your client's customer relation management system. And then GRC is your group rooms controller, where you see how many groups you have how many rooms you have left for specific days in the year and what spaces you have left. What else did we?
Star report.
Yeah, you have
I don't remember what the star means.
co-star.
I don't remember that. I failed this quiz.
You guys talked a lot about how you shifted like what you wanted to do in events and funding into becoming hotels. How do you regroup into changing like what's your course of action when you really want to do something else?
It's not an easy decision to make. I think back to when I started at Cal Poly being an architect student. That decision alone and switching into hospitality was a hard one. But it's kind of trusting your intuition and trusting yourself. And as I mentioned, you're only going to grow if you make mistakes. So if you are exploring something and it's not for you, hey, now you know it's not for you, but you weren't going to know that unless you tried it out, you know? Yeah.
I think that's where the calculated risk comes in.
Yeah.
I think before you make the switch, I would definitely explore by either reaching out to people who are doing what you think you're interested in. If it's someone within your company that you feel like you have a good relationship with, I would just go ask them. If you don't have any relationship with the people who do that in your company, I would ask either a peer or your manager, your director, to see if they can make a formal introduction. And then that way you have a leg in and it's not the awkward knock on the door or just a random email that they might never read. I think a personal introduction is always easier just to ease in, because then if you ask your current supervisor or someone who knows you well, they can also like push a little marketing for you and say, hey, this person is awesome and they are actually interested in what you're doing. Would you mind grabbing a coffee with them and just chatting about what you're doing so that they can get a great overview of what you're interested in? And then the other aspect is more of like the proactive sell. You mentioned it's more of like a cold reach out, and you can reach out to someone on LinkedIn and just say, hey, I see that you're doing this and that for this company. I'm really interested in that field. Do you have any availability to maybe chat about what you're doing on a daily basis? I'm thinking about pursuing that next. So I think figuring out what these people are doing first, because you don't just want to jump in and then you could have gotten some more information before you did so, and now you're somewhere that you don't want to be at all. So I think trying to explore and even just read up on what these people are doing online. I mean, there's so many resources to figure out what people do, or even going on LinkedIn or any job search related site and just looking for that title that you're interested in. And then usually when they post positions, there's a description of what these people do on a daily basis as well.
Hi, I'm Serena. I was wondering what like a week in your work schedule looks like. Are you working like early mornings, late nights, both, and weekends, and like what a day in your work life is for you?
That's a good question. Again, we work in sales. So it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the most part. Yeah. Monday through Friday. She gets to work from home. I work from home half the week, but I have the luxury of living only 10 minutes from the hotel. So my commute into work it's not a bad commute at all. For me personally, I kind of make a calendar for myself for my daily activities. So there's a window where all I'm doing is calling people. There's a window where all I'm doing is mining through my inbox and answering questions. There's a window where I'm taking in a new lead and seeing if it works with the dates that they're requesting. So kind of being calculated and forcing yourself to stick to that. That way you get, this works for me. It allows me to stay focused and kind of get through my day as strategic as possible. Yeah, that's a day in my life.
Yeah, I think
She wakes up at 9, clocks in at 9:01.
8:55, Manny. This is my first fully remote position. I've been hybrid before, but obviously being fully remote, you need to manage yourself and get your stuff done. So usually fully remote, at least for the companies I've worked for, you need to reach a certain senior level because there's not help available as readily as if you work on property. So that's a little different. I think on a regular week, I have my morning stand-up meeting that I log in for every day. And then once a day, we actually discuss all the leads coming in, and then we collaborate with the events team as well as the revenue team to see what offers we want to send out. And then I schedule my own either calls or meetings with my clients throughout the week. Usually about once a week, I drive down to the property and I do site tours. So I try to bundle them since I'm fully remote. When I have a site tour, I would go in early in the morning and then attend all my meetings as far as they work well with my sites. And then usually sites for our property either involve a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner with the client. So you would show people around your property and all the food and beverage outlets. If it's a big client, you might take them out for an activity, and then you usually either start or end your site with a meal with the client. So that's, I guess, the most human contact I get in a like fully remote week, when I meet face to face with my clients. And otherwise, just like Manny, I kind of create my own schedule. I make sure that I carve out some time to do active prospecting. And then I also have a couple hours that I save solely to respond to leads.
So, thank you both for being here today. With Marriott Day happening next week, what should students do to prepare for Marriott Day? What kind of questions should they come with?
Why are you asking?
She's the ambassador.
Ambassador for Marriott. What should students do to prepare for that next week during U hours, Tuesday, in Marriott Learning Center? Thank you very much.
You'll have the last question. Go ahead and you can answer that as a young student.
As a young student,
Investigate.
I would say learn as much as possible about the company, its growth trajectory. Right now, Marriott International is leaning heavy into luxury. The luxury aspect of the industry is growing immensely. There's a massive resort that Marriott International just acquired in Newport Beach that's going to eventually be a St. Regis property. So the opportunities for you to grow into luxury are kind of endless, if that's where you see yourself. As a student, I would learn what a star interview is within Marriott, because even today I have to utilize the star method to answer questions. So it's something very, very heavily ingrained in the culture of Marriott International. And yeah, exploring what hotels are opening up, where you see the company going. Yeah.
You don't have to answer that. Last question, then we're going to have a group photo. So ask something happy.
Well, my name is Annette. I'm a transfer student in my senior semester. So you both enlightened me on some things I've been thinking about here, and I do plan to intern at the Gaylord.
Amazing.
So, I'm an event / lodging emphasis, and listening to your roadmap, you started an event to the Hollywood Hotel. You went to Morocco, I worked at the Congress, so I'm like looking at where you want to go, and I've been looking at remote sales jobs online. So what I want to know is like, what was your roadmap that brought you back to sales or put you into sales? If you could kind of give us a little insight.
What brought me back to sales? I think a big part of it was escaping the craziness of events, specifically in Hollywood, just because Hollywood is a different beast when it comes to events, and that urge to kind of match how Vegas handles huge events and lots of nightlife. I think that's very location specific. I don't think a lot of, even if you just go to West Hollywood, it's completely different. So I think that was just a complete lack of work-life balance, which is what ultimately made me choose the sales side over events. And I think it's also different to, I've worked at properties where I was selling, but also servicing my own groups, which I think is a great learning experience. And I think going in, I wouldn't change that. I think that experience made me a valuable seller because I know exactly what the events team goes through. After that contract is signed, I know exactly what happens because I've done it myself. And I think in hospitality overall, even if you have a degree in hospitality, if you climb the ladder from the bottom up, you will earn so much respect from all your counterparts, from all the leadership at a property, because you truly understand the operations of a hotel, private club, whatever it may be, from personal experience. I think some salespeople come in to a hotel or a private club, whatever it may be, and they've only done sales, so they don't truly understand what it takes to actually make it happen. So that's when I think the frictions is created between sales and events. So I think if I had the opportunity to do it over again, I actually wouldn't change anything, because I think the events portion made me a stronger seller, because I know I can walk into a meeting space and I know exactly how many tables I can put in, how many people I can seat there. I know the AV lingo, and I think there's so much lingo in hospitality overall. So having the background of knowing the lingo, and then if you are in a senior sales position and you now have to tell your events team, hey, I know this is a tricky setup, but I think we can do it this, and that way. So I think when you do that, I think they understand that you actually thought it through. You didn't just sell the dream and know it's not possible. I think there's a lot of respect that comes with actually knowing the full territory and not just coming in because I think sometimes, and you can let me know what you think about that. I think sometimes the sales team gets a bad rap of just all you do is wine and dine people and like selling the dream. So you just walk around in your nice clothes and this is all you do all day. But truly, you're better off if you understand all the portions. So,
Yeah.
Aren't they fabulous?